put themselves in box. And I could see why people would get angry about there being no definitions and no distinctions between people. Even though I think it's like you have to strike this balance that there's nothing, we're all the same, which is true, but then, you know.
When I was like 8, I used to like ice skate, and I did a song like I did like a performance to the song, which is like kind of weird and like also kind of embarrassing to think about, because I feel like my parents also didn't know what was like they don't know what the song is about, but I think everyone else like in our circles thought it was a song about like peace and love, so it was okay for their daughter to like do like a 2-minute dub routine to it, you know. But I don't know, I think it's
I mean,
pretty
at 8, it's interesting.
yeah, I don't know.
Okay, so let's dive in to the Torah. Like you said, we're talking about Genesis, and just reminding you that this is about after the flood. Okay, after Noah dies, and basically it describes the birth of all the children and children's children according to their 3 divisions, right? There's Noach, there's Shem, Ham, and Yafet. You know this division? You talked about Black Lives Matter. The descendants of Ham are the blacks. So this is how, right? These are the groupings of Noach descendants. Now it gives you already sort of a preview of what's going to happen, right? That from these, the nations branched out. Why is it saying it? This is in a future tense. I don't know, in English, does it get across that it's a future tense? And then starts the story of Babylon. Want to read? You suggested it.
Are you talking to me?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I can read it. In Hebrew or English? No, I'll read it. I can't do the Hebrew very well.
No, everyone, it's okay. We always read in English. Don't feel bad.
Everyone on earth had the same language and the same words. And as they migrated from the east, they came upon a valley in the land of Shinar and settled there. They said to one another, "Come, let us make bricks and burn them hard." Brick served as stone, and bitumen served them as mortar. And they said, "Come, let us build us a city and a tower with its top in the sky to make a name for ourselves, else we shall be scattered all over the world." The Lord came down to look at the city and tower that man had built. And the Lord said, "If, as one people with one language for all, this is how they have begun to act, then nothing that they may propose to do will be out of their reach. Let us then go down and confound their speech there, so that they shall not understand one another's speech." Thus the Lord scattered them from there over the face of the whole earth, and they stopped building the city. That is why it was called Babel, because there the Lord confounded the speech of the whole earth. And from there, the Lord scattered them over the face of the whole earth.
Okay. So first, we have to say something very important, and that is that these first chapters of Genesis explain mythologically why the world isn't perfect, right? We start with Eden, and then and for example, at Eden, the relationship between man and labor is very harmonious, right? Labor is not difficult, not painful. Birth is not painful. You know, by the way, I've always thought about this. Why is birth so much associated with pain? You girls didn't go through it, but I've gone to it with my wife and with my 3 daughters. It's really a challenge. It's not, I don't want to worry you, but you probably know that. So the same thing goes for the flood. The change, you know what the change after the flood is? What was before what the flood caused?
Is it meat eating?
Carnivore. The whole situation of I mean, the harmony between man and animal was disrupted already at Eden. The animosity, but it's even more than meeting. You know what? Let's not go too far. So basically, it sounds like that the idea of John Lennon of not having a country, and even more having one language, is the ideal. That's where we come from before the sin, right? Or wrong? What's the other option in the story? You want the story in front of you? Put on in the English so you can. Is there something wrong in what they're doing?
Yeah, they're trying to build a tower to God.
To God?
Or, I guess, to make a name for ourselves. I'm not sure.
What's the problem? What is the difference between the situation, the equilibrium situation, and the change of the status quo? What are they trying to change?
Well, it seems like they're trying to create like a unified, kind of like very homogeneous community where like there's one center and everyone kind of looks towards that exact center. And it's like if they are able to successfully, it says like if like God says like if they're able to speak, if there's just a people with one language, they'll be able to do anything. And that seems to refer to both good and bad. Maybe I'm wrong.
What's wrong with that? Why is it bad? Let's take it one by one, okay? Everyone has the same language, and the same words is not exactly a translation. It says in the Hebrew, it says the same language and the same dvarim. Now it's not very clear what dvarim are things in literal meaning. It's not very clear what it means, but it's more than just language, right? I don't know, culture or something very total. Now, the geography is very clear. They're coming from the east, and the east, where is man created, or where is man situated after Eden, or after the flood? In Israel, right? So going from the east to the west, they're going, where is Babylon?
Iraq.
What?
She said Iraq.
Yeah. Now, who's going to be born in Iraq? In Babylon? Not in Babylon, but in Iraq. In a few chapters, who's going to be born there? Abraham. Abraham is going to do the same trip backwards, from the west to the east. Okay, it's important because if the problem is Babylon, the solution is Abraham. Now, what is? Why do they tell us about the bricks? The whole thing of building by bricks. What does the writer of the story think that usually people build from?
Wood.
Maybe. But if we're talking about Israel, stone,
What is it?
right?
Wait, what is
So
it?
what's unique about bricks, brick making? What's the storyteller adding or twisting through the story of bricks?
It's not natural.
Technology, right? It's man-made. So it's part of the story that man is taking over his fate. He's not dependent only on caves, or you said wood. Wood is in the middle between stone and bricks. There's a lot of work by man to get the wood. But I think it's, if we're talking biblical, it's compared to stone. So why is this important to the story that they're making these bricks?
That it's not necessarily like natural. It isn't like something it's like man-made. It's not something that's coming from.
So what is it? Why does it play in the story?
Well, it seems as though this like one people with one language is man-made
Okay.
in some respects.
What else?
Is it that they're acting like God? Or
They're
gods?
taking over, right? They're becoming independent of God,
Independent.
of nature. Or look at the idea of the city. Why city? What's the idea? What is the difference between a village or and a city? Why is it?
Or they would be like separating themselves from the land. But
What's the problem with the land?
that
God
they
cursed
had
it, right?
what'd you say?
God cursed it, right?
Mhm.
The relationship with nature is hostile. So they're trying to solve the problem of Eden. Now, before we go, you know, and what about the tower? What does the tower do?
It has something to do with naming, and I know that the Torah is hesitant to name things.
What do you mean? What do you mean by naming?
For example, God's name is sort of, you know, they're very hesitant about naming God, for example. So that there's something here, and people get renamed and named, and that's always very significant. So something to do with they're building a tower to make a name for themselves. I can't I don't know the link, but something to do with names.
But first of all, man is awarded at the second chapter of Genesis, awarded the task of naming animals and so on. And I think what you're saying is very post biblical. You can't name God, but to have a name to commemorate. It's more to commemorate. Now, are they doing anything bad?
I don't think so. Except that they're not being very humble. I mean, I don't know. To me, it doesn't seem so bad.
So who agrees with you in the story? What does verse 6 say?
And the Lord said, if as one people with one language for all this is how they begin to act, then nothing they may propose to do will be out of their reach. That if they decide to build a tower and make a name for themselves, and they're going to think that their powers are like limitless, and they'll just like continue and continue to climb the tower of their
Isn't
power.
that great?
No, it's not good.
Why? They can do anything they want. They can get proposed to do
Because
everything
then
out of their reach.
yeah, but then they
What-
lose all their
What is
humility.
God's problem? Remember the story in Eden. What was God's problem there? Why didn't he allow Adam
No.
and Eve to eat from the fruit of knowledge? You remember?
Yeah, because he didn't want them to gain that knowledge.
Why?
Because it's like part of God's knowledge, I think.
You don't remember?
I don't remember.
No, I don't remember either.
The serpent
You all know good and
see
bad.
verse 5. What does the
Oh,
serpent say?
But God knows that as soon as you eat of your eyes, your eyes will be open and you'll be like divine beings who know good and bad. So you'll be able to judge things, basically.
But what's the Eve says that the reason God told them not to eat from the fruit was that it's poisonous. It will kill you. The serpent says, no, God lied to you. He didn't tell you the whole truth. The
Mhm.
truth is that God is afraid that you will become
Like him.
divine like him. Right? Is he correct or not? Who told the truth? God or the serpent?
The serpent.
How do you know?
Because the whole reason why they decided to eat from the tree because they thought they could become like God.
Yeah, but maybe the serpent is the bad guy here, right?
Right.
Oh, 22. Yeah.
What does it say?
Now that the man has become like one of us, knowing good and bad, what if he should stretch out his hand and take also from the tree of life and eat and live forever?
So God is a liar. And also he's paranoid. That's the story, not me. No?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He doesn't want us to live forever. He wants us to die.
He doesn't want us to die. If we wouldn't have eaten from the fruit of knowledge, we could have lived forever because we wouldn't be able to become God,
Oh.
right? The reason he's decreeing death on us is because we are about might. Did any of you see Blade Runner? It's a must-see movie. Just you, only you saw it? The others didn't?
I didn't see the new one. I saw the old one. Is that the one you're referring to?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Ridley Scott.
Yeah. Yeah. I saw that.
So anyway, the story there is about man-made replicants, and the part of the story is that they built in like a timer in the replicants that they will die within 3 years. And the reason is because they're afraid that the replicants will take over. You really have to see the movie. It's a whole interpretation of Genesis, of the first chapters of Genesis.
Never realized that.
It's called replicants. What is a replicant? How was man made?
No.
Another man.
In the image of God, right? We are replicants of God. Okay, it's very, if you look at it, you can understand a lot of things. It's a great movie. It's really one of the deepest movies. Anyway, so if we take that and compare it to 6, what's the problem? Why does God have a problem with them having one language?
The same problem, I guess, that if they can, it's this last part, I guess, that if they can do anything, then they can be like God and maybe even live forever like God, and yeah, it's maybe
Right.
it's the same turn, right?
Right? So what's the problem? Why is it a problem that man will be like God? I mean, it sounds like God is petty, right? I mean, this is the Bible talking. First of all, he's a liar, and he's afraid of man. I have no answer. But it's troubling, no?
Yeah, it's weird.
I mean, what Genesis is describing, not explaining, but describing, is a tension between our humanity and our, if we use Nietzsche's term, the Übermensch, right? The man who is God. I mean, from the beginning, God is creating man in the image of God. That in itself is a question. Why do you create man in the image of God, especially if you don't want them to become God? So, what we can see is the danger. There's a danger here. We don't know why, but there is a danger of of man becoming God. Now, if we look at our age, at our time, is there a reason that we can think of what might happen when man becomes like God? We're getting like God very, very, I mean, in the last decades. I mean, you probably know Yuval Noah Harari's prediction, right? Of man becoming a creator, and a creator of something which will be stronger than him. Globalism. What's the danger there? By the way, one language. The world is going very closely to one language. I mean, today, if you have a conference anywhere in the world, in China or wherever, it will be in English. I have to break my tongue talking to you in English. Is there a problem there? Is there a reason to go against what John Lennon is saying? To not to have any nation, not to have any separation between people. What do you think?
I'm not following the connections between God and Chava and Adam, and then the song. I don't get
I can't hear you. Can you say again?
the connection between Genesis, like what you're saying about Chava and Adam, and the song.
Why?
I don't know. Can you make it more explicit, or
What is the song describing?
like it's an anti-nationalist song? But then when you talk about
It
like,
describes a world where there's no boundaries.
Mhm. And so you're saying the boundaries in the stories are about the boundaries between God and man? Like,
No, I mean, the song is literally opposed to Babylon. I mean, the song describes why we were separated into different nations, why there is a country, there is separation.
Mhm.
So the song wants us to go back to the way things were before.
With Adam and Eve.
Which is ideal according to the Genesis, right? Genesis describes a situation. I'm a script writer. You start the story from an equilibrium. There's a situation, and then it disrupts. That's how stories get started. So the equilibrium is harmony between men and women. If you remember in Genesis, harmony between man and nature, harmony between man and other men, and harmony between man and himself, right? Death, the ultimate fear, the ultimate destruction. So when we start with no nations, and it looks like everything is great, we want to be like, everybody will want to be the same.
What's the problem?
What's the problem there? What happens if man becomes God? It's happening. Is there a problem? Is the world getting better through it?
I don't have an answer, but I have a question.
That's better.
Which is the question is, a lot of the things that are happening upset us, like Facebook connecting the world has caused us to accelerate towards one language and one shared, more and more people are connected and sharing things, but something about that causes tons of violence. And
Why?
and there's also this idea that Emma said, that we don't want to feel like we're being erased and that we're all being massed into the same thing without distinction. So I guess I don't know why, but my question is, why does it feel so unsettling if it's a positive thing? And
So,
and
so
maybe-
that's very important what you're saying. It's without analyzing it, intuitively, we feel a problem. There's something troubling there. Man becoming God is, I mean, the easiest way out is to talk about globalism as the power of man to dominate other people. Right? In globalism, there's the how do you call it? Not the companies, the corporations that become a Tower of Babylon. It's a man-made creation that, you know, corporations like Microsoft or Apple are economically stronger than states, than nations. And we feel there's a problem there. Right? It started, I mean, take Facebook, that's a very classic example. Started like a very humanistic goal, right? To have people talk to each other, to break boundaries. But we know that something goes wrong there. Or, of course, take climate change. Because man became so dominant on Earth, almost beyond any power, right? There's almost no limit to our power. We are destroying Earth by this strength. There's a story about Babylon, the Midrash. It's not from the Bible, that talks about that when someone went up the tower and he fell and died, nobody cared. But when a brick fell down, they sat down and cried. How does this connect to the idea? Why do the sages invent this? It's not in the Bible, so it's an invention, a creative story invention. Anyway, we don't have enough time to not solve the questions that I don't have an answer for. So the only thing I can tell you is about Messianic, and look at the Messianic response to this. It's in Isaiah. Gabriel, do you want to read?
Yeah, sure. The word of Isaiah, son of Amos, prophesied concerning Judah and Jerusalem. In the years to come, the mount of the Lord's house shall stand firm above the mountains and tower above the hills, and all the nations shall gaze on it with joy. And the many people shall go and say, Come, let us go up to the mount of the Lord, to the house of the God of Jacob, that he may instruct us in his ways, and that we may walk in his paths. For instruction shall come forth from Zion, the word of the Lord from Jerusalem. Thus he will judge among the nations and arbitrate for the many peoples, and they shall beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation shall not take up sword against nation, they shall never again know war. O house of Jacob, come, let us
Okay,
walk.
it's enough for now. What is Isaiah prophesying? What will be at the end of days?
Can we see the text again?
Yeah.
There's a building, right, on the top of the mountains, and everybody, not just Jews, all nations are coming there. And what stops? What will end?
War.
War,
Yeah.
animosity between men, the separation, right? What's the difference between this and Babylon? Right? This is actually, we're going back. That's the messianic message. We started in prehistory. We were in an ideal situation, and we're striving to go back to it. But there's a small difference here. There will be no more. The animosity between peoples will stop, right? It's a Babylon. Everybody is coming to the same place, around, circling or connecting to the same place. And by the way, how does it start? What does God say to Abraham when he sends them to Israel? I'm going to make you a nation, but what's the goal of your nation? Remember this, we studied a lot, I think. What is the goal of the Jewish people according to Genesis? Of Abraham? You don't remember?
Isn't it just to like multiply?
Yeah. So
Just to multiply? For what?
To be alive.
What?
Or the goyim, like
Look at,
It would be a great nation.
yeah. So we will be the great nation. And why should we be a great nation? What's the goal? What's the ultimate goal? For us to rule the world, to be the first, the worldwide empire, the greatest nation in the world, the powerful nation in the world? Look at 3.
Well, it seems to say to bring like blessing.
To bring the blessing to the whole world, right? All the families of the earth. You see, it's a direct reply to the story of Babylon, right? On one hand, there's animosity. There's anti-Semitism. Anti-Semitism, as we know very well, is the most crystal hatred between people. Right? If you want to test racism, the best litmus paper, is that how you said it in English?
Litmus test. Yeah.
It's the best litmus test for racial hatred. Right? Hating Jews is the most clear hatred between people. So God acknowledges it, more than acknowledges. He says, I will curse whoever curses you. But at the end of the same sentence, it's a paradox within the sentence. Do you see the paradox?
Oh,
It starts with a curse and ends with a blessing to all people. So again, only with questions, we don't really have an answer here. But the role of the Jewish people, right? After Babylon, the nations are separated, and the story narrows down, zooms in to the family of Abraham. We push aside the other, right? There's the story of Genesis starts with man, the human kind, and starts narrowing down, and then it focuses on Abraham and starts the Jewish people. And the Jewish people are paradoxically the symbol of hatred. There's no human nation that has been hated so much and is being hated right now so much. You know that in many, not questioners, polls, they ask people, who is the most dangerous country in the world? And people say Israel. Not North Korea, not Iran, Israel. I mean, that's mind-blowing. You can criticize Israel all you want, but to say that it's the most dangerous country in the world, right? Gaza is attacking civilians, and our responding makes us cancel. You understand the craziness? Now, I'm not saying it to be self-righteous. I'm not interested now in being victimized. That's not the story I want to tell. The story I want to tell is the tension between people that Israel is the most clear example of, or even the leading example of. And our goal is to bring the nations together, to create a Babylon. But the difference is, the important difference is that what is this Babylon? What is this monument that everybody is rushing to? What's the difference between the tower and
it's not attributed to people. It's God's mountain.
It's God's mountain. It's not a way to battle with God. God's place is the place where God connects with people. God comes down from heaven to connect with man. That's the house of God. That's the idea of the house of God. Right? It's a place of intimacy, right? Oel Moed, the name of the how do you say it in the desert, where God lives?
Mizbeach? No.
No, Mizbeach is the altar, but the Mizbeach is part of the sanctuary, right? It's called
Yeah.
Ohel Moed. The tent of meeting.
Hmm.
Right? This is the place that God reveals, becomes from a transcendental God to an intimate God. So the idea here is, how do we change our relationship with God from alienation, competition, to intimacy, to connective? And the Bible says, and again, I don't have an answer why, that this somehow changes the connection between people. If we are able to connect intimately with God, there is religion different from John Lennon's song. The religion will cause the connection between people.
Like a ripple effect.
Right. Even more than ripple, direct. There will be a house of God, and people will connect between them. The wars will stop because they will all be connected to this one monument. But it's not a monument for man, right? The story of Babylon. It's a monument for the connection with God. And paradoxically, the Temple Mount today is the most dangerous place in the world because of religion. Everybody wants to go to this Temple Mount. But because they want to go there, it's the most explosive. Now, is it a chance that the Jewish people, who are the most hated, are in the land, in its most important city, in its most holiest place, which could become nuclear, a total destruction, or in some way become a unifying place? Is the fact that we all crave for the same place something that has to divide us? You understand the paradox? If all of us love the same woman or man, okay, there are two options. One is that we're going to fight over it, and the best man wins. Or the opposite. It can unite us because we all crave to the same God. I think I told you about my friend, Rabbi Furman, and when the beginning of the Oslo Accords, they started with Jericho and Gaza first. They wanted to make a pilot in Gaza and Jericho. Well, we can see what happened with Gaza, with the Gaza pilot, how great it worked. But my friend, Rabbi Furman, said Jerusalem first. Now, everybody thought the opposite. Jerusalem is the most difficult, the most unsolvable. But my friend, who was a rabbi and settler, was in dialogue with Sheikh Yassin. Sheikh Yassin is the founder of Hamas. They prayed together. And the reason he said Jerusalem first was that he thought that the way to create peace is through religion, not in spite of religion. Because God is so beyond everything, nobody owns God. So the house of God doesn't belong to anybody, to any specific. It's not real estate. He had a vision of a joint police of Jews and Muslims and Christians who will patrol, who will be like the DC police of Jerusalem. Now, of course, he was messianic. It's not realistic now. And it's not a chance that the whole last war that broke out now with Gaza, with Hamas, was centered around Jerusalem. You know, it started because of Jerusalem. So Jerusalem is the Babylon, Jerusalem, is very centered focus. And by the way, Babylon in the Bible is to mix up, to confuse, to create the chaos. But the original Mesopotamian language, Babylon, is the Bab-El. Bab is the gate. Right? Even in Aramaic, Baba. Bab is the gate, El is God. Bavel, Bab-El. So originally the name of Babylon was the gate to God, the gate to heaven. That's the original name of Babylon. Anyway.
Udi, I have a question, and this is a little off topic, but how does your friend Rabbi Furman know, like Sheikh Hassan? Like, how does he know him? Like, I gotta know.
He made an effort. First of all, he's dead. So they are both in heaven now. I don't know what they're doing, but they're both in heaven. He just made the effort. I mean, he went to visit him when he was in Israeli prison. And then when he was freed, he went to Gaza. And the story is that that when he went to Gaza, his family was very worried what might happen to him. So they agreed that if he doesn't come back or give a sign by evening, they will call in the Shabak, how do you say Shabak? Like the FBI,
Yeah.
the Secret Service. And night came and there was no sign. And his wife, who's a great woman in herself, decided that she will wait. She said, I know my husband, he was a very, aloof guy. We'll give it a few more hours. And only at noon next day, he made connection. And what happened was that he said that they gave him ice cream. And he was so excited about the ice cream that he forgot to make the sign. Real story. There's a picture of him praying with Sheikh Yassin. I think I showed you.
Praying with him?
I think we met his son on Kivunim, like in Efrat.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
That's him. First of all, you see him here with Muslims. You see the picture? You see them praying here?
Mm-hmm.
This is a prayer for rain. They join together to pray for rain. But that's not the picture I wanted to show you. You see, he's with his tefillin.
He was a part of Gush Emunim, right?
What?
Was he a member of Gush Emunim?
He was a member. I'm not.
No, he was, right?
Yeah. This is him and his wife. He's a guy that couldn't talk more than a few sentences without talking about his wife. Here, here's the picture.
He's wearing his tefillin for the encounter?
Yeah, of course. They're praying.
Oh, they were praying together.
By the way, this is from a post that says Rabbi Fruman, who hugged with Arafat, has gone to hell. This is a Jewish post against him. But there's even a clearer picture. Probably this is his son that came.
Yossi, right?
Yossi knows. Yossi is the other son. This is Shivi. He has 10 children. If you mean Yossi, you mean him.
Yeah.
But where's the place? This is a great picture. I miss him a lot. I can't find the picture of the prayer. Anyway. So you go deal with your anti-Semitism, and I'll go deal with my Arabs. And don't be canceled.
I'll try my best.
Bring
Thank
peace.
Thank you so
Have a
much.
nice week.
Thank you too.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Maybe. Bye.
Bye.